Darlington wanted to humiliate his ex-wife by inviting her to his grand birthday gala. He imagined she would show up looking tired, poor, and defeated. But when Mabel stepped out of a blazing red Ferrari with 3 little boys holding her hands, the entire hall went silent. The same woman he once called barren now had triplets, and that was only the beginning. But before that shocking night happened, my story began much earlier, in the quietest, most painful corner of my life. Once upon a time in Port Harcourt, Darlington Wosu was known as the rising CEO who loved power, luxury, and admiration. He wore crisp suits, owned the newest cars, and walked as if the entire city belonged to him. And I, Mabel, was the gentle, hopeful woman who loved him long before the world applauded his name. For 7 years I stood by him. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of trying for a child. 7 years of waiting for a miracle. But each month ended the same way. Silence, disappointment, and a little more distance between us. The night everything shattered, the house was unusually still. I sat at the edge of our bed, clutching my hands tightly. Darlington walked in with a storm on his face, his tie loose, irritation dripping from every movement. 7 years, Mabel, he said, slamming his keys down. 7 years and nothing to show. No child. No heir. My chest tightened. Darling, we can still try another doctor. Don't embarrass yourself, he snapped. People laugh at me because of you. Tears welled in my eyes. We said for better, for worse. He looked at me like a stranger. Tomorrow, you leave my house. I won't waste my life on a barren woman. My breath broke. My heart cracked. And that was the night my world collapsed. I don't remember how long I sat there on the cold bedroom floor after Darlington stormed out. Minutes, hours. Everything felt blurred, like my soul had stepped outside my body. The man I cooked for, prayed for, defended, and followed had thrown me away with one sentence. Leave my house tomorrow. Those words echoed in my chest as I packed my small bag. My hands shook so badly I could barely fold my clothes. Each dress I lifted carried a memory. Church services, quiet dinners, birthdays we once celebrated with laughter. Now those same memories felt like knives. Darlington stood by the door watching me pack, his arms crossed, eyes cold. Not once did he stop me. Not once did he soften. Not once did he remember the woman who held his hand when he had nothing. When I finally zipped the bag, my tears fell freely. I turned to him, my voice barely a whisper. One day, you will understand what you've done. He looked away. Silence. Only silence. I walked out of the house with trembling steps, my slippers dragging on the marble floor. The mansion that once felt warm now felt like a stranger's palace. The maids avoided my eyes. No one dared speak. Even the security man looked down, unsure how to greet me. The night air hit my face as I reached the gate. I paused, looked back at the house I once called home, and whispered, I may be leaving with nothing, but I will not remain broken. I stepped into the dark street, clutching my bag to my chest. I didn't know where I was going. I just walked past shops, sleeping dogs, flashing streetlights, past people who had no idea my entire life had just collapsed. There was only one person I could think of. My old friend, Adora. And her door was the only door I hoped would still open for me. By the time I reached Adaora Street, my legs felt like they no longer belonged to me. Every step was heavy, shaky, and soaked in the kind of exhaustion that comes from heartbreak, not distance. Her small apartment sat at the end of the road, its porch light glowing faintly like a tiny promise that I wasn't completely alone. I knocked gently. The door swung open, and Adora appeared in her wrapper, eyes widening the moment she saw my face. Mabel. Jesus. What happened? Why are you crying? Did someone die? I couldn't speak. I just collapsed into her arms, sobbing the way a wounded child sobs when the pain is too deep for words. She pulled me inside quickly. Sit down. Talk to me. What happened? He threw me out, I whispered. Darlington said I'm a burden. Said I'm the reason there's no child. Adora hissed sharply and sat beside me. That man has no fear of God. After everything you've done for him. I wiped my tears with the back of my hand. I left with just this bag. All my things. Still in that house. You'll sleep here, she said firmly. You're not going anywhere tonight. I don't have much, but this home is your home. A small, broken sigh left my chest. Thank you, truly. Adaora stood, tying her wrapper tighter. Let me boil water. You'll bathe, eat something warm, then sleep. But sleep never came. I lay on her small bed that night, staring at the ceiling while memories stabbed me one by one. The moment he turned away, the disgust in his eyes, the way he said, barren like a curse. By morning, my pillow was soaked with tears. Days passed. I stayed in Adora's house, moving like a shadow. She tried to cheer me up, but I barely ate, barely spoke, barely existed. I just sat by the window, wondering how love could turn into a weapon so cruel. But Adora wasn't done fighting for me. Not yet. Adora watched me quietly as the days dragged by. I barely touched food, barely stepped outside, barely responded when she tried to make me laugh. I sat by the window most mornings, staring at nothing, replaying Darlington's words again and again until they carved themselves into my bones. You're the problem. You're barren. Leave my house. One afternoon, Adaora dropped a plate of rice beside me and folded her arms. Mabel, this can't continue. You can't let that man's wickedness swallow you. I forced a weak smile. I just need time. She wasn't satisfied. The next morning, she tried again. Come with me to the market. Fresh air will help. I shook my head quickly. No. People will ask about Darlington. I can't face anyone yet. You don't owe anyone explanation, she argued. He's the fool who threw away a diamond. But the fear of gossip kept me glued to the small apartment. Later that week, Adaora came home with a determined look in her eyes. Mabel, can I ask you something important? I looked up, confused. What kind of something? Did you ever go for a proper fertility test? The question stunned me. No. Darlington never agreed to be tested. He said he was fine. Everyone just assumed it was me. Adaora hissed so loudly you'd think she'd stepped on a nail. So he blamed you without proof? After all your tears? After all your prayers? I stared at my hands. I didn't have a choice. He wouldn't listen. His mother, she called me names. Adaora grabbed her bag immediately. Enough. I'm not letting you suffer for a lie. Tomorrow, we're going to the hospital. You'll do every test. You will hear the truth from a doctor's mouth, not from that arrogant CEO. Something shifted inside me. Fear, hope, anger, I didn't know. But I nodded. I needed answers. Desperately. The next morning came faster than I expected. I barely slept, my stomach twisting with fear and uncertainty. Adaora was already dressed, standing over me with her hands on her hips. Get up, Mabel. Today we face the truth. I nodded quietly. We took a taxi to Starlight Women's Clinic, a small but reputable hospital Adaora trusted. The waiting room smelled of antiseptic and lavender. Pregnant women sat with round bellies, glowing with joy. I looked away quickly. My heart couldn't bear it. Soon, a calm, soft-spoken doctor called us in. Good morning. How can I help you? Adaora answered before I could open my mouth. Doctor, my friend here was married for 7 years with no child. Her husband divorced her, blaming her completely. But she has never done any tests. We want a full checkup. The doctor nodded gently and turned to me. You did the right thing coming here. We'll run everything, scans, blood work, hormones. No assumptions. My hands trembled as they drew blood, as machines hummed, as the scans glided across my belly. Every minute felt like an hour. Every second carried the weight of 7 years of shame. 2 days later, we returned for the results. I sat opposite the doctor, my palms sweating, my heartbeat loud enough to drown the clock's ticking. He adjusted his glasses, opened my file, then looked up with a small reassuring smile. Mabel, all your tests are completely normal. I blinked. Normal. Yes, he repeated. Your reproductive system is healthy. Your hormones are balanced. Everything is functioning perfectly. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. My breath caught. Nothing. Nothing, he said again. If there was no pregnancy after 7 years, then I strongly advise your ex-husband be tested. From what I see, you were never the issue. My hand flew to my mouth as tears filled my eyes, this time not from pain, but from relief. 7 years of blame. 7 years of insults. 7 years of believing I was broken. And all along, it had never been me. I stepped out of the doctor's office feeling like the ground beneath me had shifted. The sunlight outside the clinic felt different, warmer, gentler, like the world was finally telling me I wasn't cursed after all. Adaora wrapped her arm around my shoulder. I told you, she said proudly. That man lied to you, Mabel. Lied to cover his own shame. I tried to breathe, but every breath came out shaky. All these years, I blamed myself. I begged God. I cried into my pillow. I truly thought I was the problem. Adora squeezed my hand. You were never the problem. The man just didn't have the courage to face himself. We sat on a bench outside the hospital. My body trembled from the truth. I felt relieved, yet broken all over again. How do I start again after this? I whispered. One step at a time, Adaora said softly. Pain is heavy, but healing is patient. And so, the slow rebuilding of my life began. I stayed with Adaora, helping her around the house, learning to breathe again. For the first time in weeks, I slept without waking up in tears. I began eating small meals. I even smiled, small ones, fragile ones, but still smiles. One evening, while Adaora folded laundry beside me, I said quietly, I want to do something. Maybe start small, maybe cook. I've always loved cooking. Adora's face lit up. Then we'll start with that. You'll run a food stand. People will come. Your hands are blessed. She cleared a corner of her small veranda and helped me set up a simple stand. We bought pots, aprons, a second-hand table, and a tiny umbrella for shade. The next morning, I cooked jollof rice, beans, moi, simple things that reminded me of my mother's kitchen. By noon, a small line had formed. People smiled at me, complimented the taste, returned for more. For the first time in forever, something inside me whispered, you are still valuable. You are still whole. And as the sun set that day, I realized, my healing had finally begun. My food stand grew faster than I expected. Every morning, the aroma of hot jollof, fried plantain, and fresh soup drifted down the street, drawing workers from nearby offices. Some came out of curiosity, others because they liked my smile, but most returned because the food reminded them of home. One afternoon, while I was scooping rice into a takeaway plate, a gentle male voice interrupted my thoughts. Madam, 2 plates, please. I looked up. A tall man stood before me, broad shoulders, warm brown eyes, a white shirt tucked neatly into brown trousers. He carried a laptop bag and a calmness I hadn't seen in a long time. Your jollof smells too good to ignore, he said with a soft laugh. For the first time in weeks, a quiet chuckle escaped me. Thank you. Spicy or mild? Spicy, he answered. I like my food to fight back. I packed the meal, handed it to him, and he passed me a clean note. But he didn't walk away immediately. You don't talk much, he observed kindly. I just focus on the food, I replied. That's fair. He tilted his head slightly. My name is Kene. I work at the firm down the road. Expect me again. And true to his word, he came back the next day. And the next. And the next. Sometimes he bought 2 plates. Sometimes just 1. But each visit came with a joke, a story, or a warm smile. Never too long, never intrusive. Gradually, I found myself smiling before he even arrived. One quiet afternoon, with no customers around, he stayed a little longer. Madam Mabel, he said, reading the name on my stand, do you rest at all? You've been here since sunrise. I rest when I get home, I said softly. You shouldn't work this hard alone, he murmured. I looked away, heart tightening. Hard work is all I have left. He studied me gently. You deserve more than just surviving. His words lingered long after he walked away. And for the first time, I wondered if kindness could still exist for me. Kene didn't stop coming. Day after day, he showed up with the same warm smile that somehow softened the heaviness inside my chest. Sometimes he brought sachet water to support my stand, sometimes fresh onions, and sometimes nothing at all, just himself and a story that made my afternoon lighter. Still, I kept a careful distance. Pain teaches caution. One afternoon, when the street was unusually quiet, he rested his laptop bag on a nearby chair. "Do you ever take a break, Mabel?" he asked. I wiped my hands on my apron. "I rest when I get home." He frowned gently. "You shouldn't carry everything alone." I looked down. "I'm used to it." He hesitated, then asked softly, "Are you married?" My heart stuttered. "I was," I whispered. Kene nodded slowly, not pushing. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to reopen wounds." "It's not your fault," I replied. There was a moment of silence before he spoke again, quieter this time. "You seem strong. Stronger than you know." I didn't respond. I didn't know how. That night, when I returned to Adora's house, she raised her eyebrows immediately. "That man who buys food every day. Who is he?" "Just a customer," I muttered. Adora laughed. "Mabel, please. He looks at you like you're a miracle he's afraid to touch." I rolled my eyes, but her words stayed with me. The next week, Kene came with something unexpected, a small basket of tomatoes. "For your stew tomorrow," he said shyly. "It's not much. Why do you keep doing this?" I asked gently. "Because," he rubbed the back of his neck, "because you deserve kindness. And because you remind me that gentle people still exist." His words moved something deep inside me, something I thought had died. I wasn't ready to trust again. Not yet. But for the first time since my marriage ended, I felt a small door inside me crack open. Not for love. Not for promises. Just for hope. Kene's visits slowly became the brightest part of my day, even though I tried not to show it. He never crossed boundaries, never pushed too hard. He simply appeared with that calm presence that made the world feel a little less heavy. One slow afternoon, he lingered again, resting one hand on the edge of my stand. "Mabel," he said carefully, "forgive me if I'm overstepping, but you seem like someone carrying a lot." I froze for a moment, then pretended to adjust a pot. "We all carry something." He nodded. "That's true. But some people carry more than their share." He was studying me, not with pity, but with quiet understanding. It scared me how easily he saw through me. He cleared his throat. "My wife died 5 years ago," he said softly. "Car accident. I haven't tried to love anyone since." My hands stopped moving. He continued, "But lately, you've reminded me what peace feels like. Not the loud kind, just the gentle kind that sits in your chest." The words hit me like a whisper I wasn't prepared for. "Kene, I don't know if I can give anyone anything right now." "I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know how I feel. No pressure. No rush." I looked at him, truly looked, and for the first time since Darlington threw me out, I didn't feel afraid. I felt seen. That evening, when I told Adaora what he said, she nearly screamed. "Mabel, God has sent you a good man." I laughed weakly. "It's too soon. My heart is still healing." Adaora touched my shoulder. "Let healing finish. But don't close your heart forever." I lay awake that night listening to the hum of the city outside. Maybe love wasn't dead. Maybe kindness still lived in the world. Maybe, just maybe, my story had room for joy again. It took months, slow, careful months, before I allowed myself to accept even the smallest warmth from Kene. We started with short conversations, then shared cups of tea after closing hours, then walks to the bus stop on quiet evenings. He never rushed me. Never demanded more. He simply showed up, consistently and gently. One Sunday afternoon, we sat beneath a mango tree near the park, children playing in the distance. He looked at me with a soft honesty that made my heart flutter with fear and something dangerously close to hope. "Mabel," he said, "may I ask you something?" I nodded. "Why me? You could choose anyone. You're beautiful, strong, kind, yet you keep everyone at a distance." I clasped my hands in my lap. Because I'm scared, Kene. I gave my whole heart once. I don't know if I can survive that kind of pain twice. He nodded slowly. I understand. But listen to me carefully. I am not Darlington. I won't break you. I won't rush you. And I will never make you feel unworthy. My eyes filled with tears I didn't expect. I'm trying, I whispered. I really am. And that's enough, he said. We grew closer, quiet moments at the stand, long talks about life, small jokes that made me laugh in ways I thought I'd forgotten. Eventually, one evening, while we sat watching the sunset paint the sky orange, he reached for my hand. Mabel, will you allow me into your future? Not today. Not tomorrow. But someday. I looked at his hand, then at his gentle eyes, and something inside me finally, softly opened. Yes, I whispered. 6 months later, surrounded by only close friends, and Adaora dancing like she'd won a lottery, I married Kene in a simple, beautiful ceremony. For the first time in years, I felt safe. Truly safe. And I had no idea life was about to bless me beyond anything I had ever prayed for. Life with Kene felt like breathing clean air after years of choking. He was gentle where Darlington was harsh, patient where Darlington was proud, and loving in ways I didn't know how to receive at first. Our home was small but warm, filled with laughter, shared meals, and quiet prayers. For the first time in a long time, peace became my daily companion. 3 months into our marriage, something strange happened. I woke up feeling unusually weak. The smell of stew made my stomach twist. My body felt different. I brushed it off as malaria, but when the nausea continued for 2 weeks, Kene insisted. We're going to the hospital. At the clinic, they ran tests while I sat on a bench biting my nails. I clenched my hands together, praying silently, though I wasn't sure if I was praying for good news or protection from disappointment. After what felt like hours, a nurse returned with a wide smile. Congratulations, madam, she said brightly. You're pregnant. My heart stopped. What? Pregnant, she repeated with certainty. About 3 weeks. My hand flew to my mouth. My eyes filled instantly. Kene jumped to his feet, stunned. Are you sure? Pregnant. My wife. The nurse laughed. Very sure. Kene lifted me off the bench in pure joy, spinning me gently. You're going to be a mother, Mabel. We're going to be parents. I broke into tears, loud, shaking tears. Not tears of grief this time, but of redemption. The months that followed were filled with doctor visits, morning sickness, and careful preparations. My belly grew, along with our excitement. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared us for the shock at my 3rd scan. The doctor looked at the screen, paused, then widened his eyes. Madam, there are 3 heartbeats. I sat up. 3. Yes, he said, smiling. You're carrying triplets. Kene shouted, Praise God, so loudly the entire hospital heard. Triplets. God had turned my shame into overflow. News of the triplets spread faster than wildfire. Neighbors came with gifts, diapers, tiny clothes, bags of rice. Adora cried so loudly when she heard the news that Kene joked the babies would think she was their second mother. My belly grew round and heavy, my steps slower, but my heart was light. On a calm Saturday morning, after hours of labor and whispered prayers, I delivered 3 healthy boys. 3 perfect little miracles. Kene held one against his chest, tears streaming freely. Mabel, look, they're beautiful. All 3. God has done more than we asked. I held the other 2, overwhelmed with joy. I'm not barren, I whispered over and over. God proved them wrong. Word traveled quickly, farther than I expected. People from our old neighborhood whispered the news. Some were shocked. Some were happy. Some wondered how the woman Darlington had thrown out had become a mother of 3. But miles away, in his office decorated with trophies and framed certificates, the news hit Darlington like a blow to the chest. He had remarried twice since our divorce. Both marriages collapsed. Still no child. His mother had grown quieter, her sharp tongue now dulled by age and regret. She no longer mocked me, she whispered prayers under her breath. One evening, as Darlington scrolled through Instagram, he saw the photo that froze his blood. A woman in a hospital bed, me, smiling with 3 newborns resting on my chest. His phone slipped from his hands. He zoomed in on my face. The shape of my nose. The curve of my smile. The way my eyes crinkled with joy. "Mabel," he whispered. He looked again at the babies. 3 boys. 3 sons. His hands trembled. The woman he once called barren now had triplets. For the first time in years, Darlington felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel. Regret. Deep, agonizing regret. Darlington's life began to unravel quietly, then all at once. His new relationship with a flashy socialite from Lagos collapsed after endless arguments and unanswered prayers for a child. His business suffered setbacks, investors pulled out, and the once confident CEO who strutted through boardrooms now walked like a man carrying invisible chains. Every night he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by one question. How could Mabel have triplets, if she was barren? His mother, Mama Uzoamako, had grown older and softer. One evening, she sat beside him, her voice weak but honest. "Son, maybe we were wrong about her." Darlington rubbed his forehead. "Mama, don't start." But she continued. "You pushed her away. We insulted her. We blamed her without proof. 7 years she stayed by you. 7 years she carried your shame. And now, God has revealed the truth." He clenched his fists, anger and guilt rising in equal measure. "Mama, stop." But Mama Uzoamako only sighed. "Children are a gift. You chased away the woman who prayed for you." Darlington stood abruptly, unable to sit still. Everywhere he went, office, gym, church, he felt eyes lingering on him. People whispered. Some pitied. Some judged. Some simply watched the proud man crumble from the inside out. One morning, as he drove to work, he saw something that froze him completely. A billboard. A large, bright billboard advertising a new family restaurant in town. Mabel's Kitchen. Homemade goodness with love. And below it, a picture of me, smiling, holding my 3 boys. His chest tightened painfully. He pulled over, unable to breathe. The same woman he threw out with a single sentence now had a business, a family, and a glow he had never given her. That evening, he sat alone in his living room, staring at the floor as tears slipped down his cheeks. "What have I done?" he whispered. But regret cannot undo a broken past. And fate was not done with him yet. It had been months since I gave birth, and my life had transformed in ways I never imagined possible. With keen support, I expanded my food stand into a small but beautiful restaurant. The walls were painted warm yellow, the tables neatly arranged, and a play corner sat near the window where the triplets could stay close while I worked. Customers loved the food, loved the warmth, and loved the story of a woman who rose again. One afternoon, while I was stirring a pot of soup, Adaora rushed in waving her phone. "Mabel, you won't believe this. Darlington is planning the biggest birthday gala of the year." I blinked. "And that concerns me how?" Adaora sighed loudly. "My dear, he's inviting half the city. I'm sure he wants to show off. Maybe even rub his success in your face." I shook my head. "I've moved on. His life no longer concerns me. But destiny has its own way of stirring old wounds." 3 days later, as I played with the boys in our living room, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to check. It was a message. An invitation. A gold-trimmed digital card. CEO Darlington Nwosu cordially invites you to his grand birthday celebration. My name was printed boldly on the VIP list. Front table. Reserved seat. Adaora saw the message and nearly exploded. What kind of madness is this? After everything he did, he wants you there? To mock you. I stared at the screen, strangely calm. He thinks I'm still the woman he threw out in tears. Adaora folded her arms. So, we're ignoring it, right? But I looked at my boys, 3 perfect little miracles giggling on the rug, and something inside me shifted. "No," I said quietly. "We're not ignoring it." Adaora gasped. "Mabel." I smiled faintly. "If he wants to see me, I will go." but not the way he expects. Little did Darlington know. What waited for him was a truth brighter than shame. Adora paced around the room like a woman whose spirit had left her body. Mabel, have you run mad? You want to go to that man's birthday? After everything he put you through? I lifted one of the boys into my arms, brushing my fingers through his soft curls. Adaora, he thinks I'm still broken. He thinks I'm still the woman who walked out of his house crying. So let him think that, she snapped. Why give him the satisfaction of seeing you? I looked at her calmly. He wants to see a defeated ex-wife. That's why he invited me, to enjoy his little show. I smiled softly. So I'll give him a show, just not the one he planned. Adaora froze. Oh Lord, you're actually serious. I nodded. I'll attend his gala with dignity, with grace, and with the truth. Adaora collapsed onto the couch dramatically. This thing will shake the entire city. We got to work that very evening. I chose a fitted emerald green gown I'd been saving for a special moment. Simple, elegant, powerful. Adaora insisted on soft makeup, a subtle shimmer, glossy lips, and sleek curls pinned behind my ears. You will look like peace wearing victory, she whispered. Next were the boys. We picked matching black trousers, white shirts, and tiny suspenders. They looked like 3 miniature princes. But the final touch, the thing that would silence the entire hall, was the car. Adaora called in a favor from a family friend who rented luxury vehicles. By morning, a gleaming red Ferrari California was parked down the street. She will drop you at the entrance, Adaora said proudly. Let Darlington choke on his shock. I buckled the boys into their car seats and inhaled deeply. I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to boast. I wasn't going to confront him. I was simply going to walk in with the life he thought I would never have, and let the truth speak for itself. The day of the birthday gala arrived like a drumbeat, loud, unavoidable, and echoing through my chest. The entire city seemed to buzz about Darlington's celebration. Social media glittered with photos of the venue, chandeliers imported from Dubai, a red carpet rolled out like a royal parade, and security guards dressed in suits that looked more expensive than my old wedding dress. By late afternoon, I dressed slowly, carefully. The emerald gown hugged me perfectly. My skin glowed under Adora's gentle touch. The boys looked handsome in their tiny suspenders, their eyes bright with innocence. When the Ferrari pulled up outside, every neighbor peeked through their window. Mummy, are we going for party? One of the boys asked. I smiled and kissed his forehead. Yes, my love. We're going to celebrate something important. Not his birthday. Not Darlington. But the victory God wrote for us. At the gala entrance, cameras flashed non-stop as wealthy guests posed beside designer champagne towers. Laughter echoed from all corners. Darlington stood inside, wearing a white agbada embroidered with gold. His smile was wide, too wide. He kept glancing at the door, waiting for the moment he thought would complete his triumph. He imagined me arriving with dusty shoes and a tired face. He imagined me sitting alone, embarrassed, invisible. But nothing prepared him for what happened next. The red Ferrari purred to a stop directly in front of the hall. Heads turned. Guests gasped. Phones flew into the air. The door opened. I stepped out slowly, the emerald dress catching every light in the room. My boys clung to my hands, 3 little kings walking beside their mother. The crowd murmured loudly. Is that Mabel? She came in a Ferrari? Those boys, they look like her. She has triplets. Wasn't she the one he called Baron? Inside, Darlington's smile collapsed into shock. He froze exactly where he stood. And for the first time since he threw me away, he looked broken. The hall fell into a silence so heavy it felt physical. Every pair of eyes followed me as I walked in with the boys. 3 perfect reminders that God writes better endings than people do. I held my head high, not out of pride, but out of peace. The emerald gown whispered against the marble floor as we moved forward. Darlington stood frozen near the center of the hall, his mouth slightly open, his gold-embroidered agbada suddenly looking dull under the lights. His friends nudged each other, whispering fiercely. His mother's hand flew to her chest. "Mabel," she gasped. But I did not stop. I simply walked to the VIP table, my reserved seat, exactly where Darlington wanted me to sit. Except he never imagined I would sit there like this. A hostess hurriedly pulled out my chair, eyes wide in disbelief. The boys climbed onto their seats, giggling softly, unaware of the storm their presence had caused. The music had stopped. Even the MC stood speechless. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Darlington finally spoke. "Mabel, those children, are they?" I met his eyes calmly. "Yes, Darlington. They're mine." He swallowed hard. "But you couldn't." I lifted one brow. "You told the world I was barren. You made me believe it too." Gasps rippled across the room. Darlington took one shaky step forward. "Mabel, please, tell me they're not." "They are triplets," I said firmly. "3 blessings. And none of them came from you." His knees buckled slightly. A woman beside him whispered loudly. "So he was the problem." Another man hissed. "And he lied on her head." The whispers turned into a wave of murmurs, all crashing toward him. Darlington looked around, suffocated by shame. Then his eyes returned to me, full of disbelief, regret, and something close to desperation. But the truth stood tall between us. I didn't come to destroy him. I came to live. And the entire hall could see the difference. Darlington's world began collapsing right before the guests' eyes. His confident posture dissolved into something fragile, almost trembling. The birthday lights suddenly felt too bright, the room too loud, the air too thin. He looked at me the way a drowning man looks at land, desperate, shaken, and painfully late. Before he could speak again, the hall's massive doors opened and the MC tried to regain control. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats so we can begin." But no one sat. Everyone wanted to know the truth. A bold woman in a sequined dress raised her voice. "Darlington, you divorced this woman because you said she was barren. What do you have to say now?" Darlington wiped his forehead. I didn't know." A man shook his head. "You never even tested yourself, did you?" Darlington looked down, ashamed. I sat quietly as my boys played with the party favors on the table, their innocence shielding them from the tension around us. I wasn't here to humiliate him. I wasn't here to gloat. I was simply here to stand tall in the truth that had once crushed me. But fate wasn't done. Suddenly, his current girlfriend, Estelle, a slim woman in gold silk, stormed toward him, eyes blazing. "You lied to me too," she shouted. "You told me your first marriage failed because she couldn't give you children. You made me feel guilty for not getting pregnant yet." Darlington reached out. "Estelle, please, let's talk privately." "No," she snapped. "Let these people hear it. Let them know who you truly are." Guests gasped. Phones recorded. Whispers grew louder. Darlington's voice cracked. "Mabel, please, can we talk outside? Just for a moment." I stood slowly, smoothing my gown. "No, Darlington. We have nothing left to discuss." His face fell completely. I walked past him with quiet dignity, leading my sons by the hand. And for the first time, Darlington realized. Some losses cannot be undone. The next morning, while the city buzzed with gossip from the gala, I woke up in my peaceful home, sunlight brushing softly across the curtains. My boys were already awake, their tiny laughter echoing through the hallway as Kene chased them playfully. The sound felt like medicine, sweet, healing medicine that wrapped around my heart. I stepped into the living room, and Kene kissed my forehead. "You were incredible last night," he whispered. "You walked in like a queen." I smiled. "I didn't go there to fight him." "You didn't need to," he replied. "Your life did the talking." We spent the morning together, feeding the boys, cleaning up toys, and preparing breakfast. It was a normal day for us, simple, quiet, full of love. Nothing like the chaos that had swallowed Darlington's world. But fate wasn't finished with him. Around noon, as I stirred a pot of soup, a soft knock came at the door. Adaora opened it, and froze. "Mabel, it's him." Darlington stood at the entrance. No agbada, no pride, No golden glow. Just a broken man holding his cap in trembling hands. His eyes were red, his voice small. "Mabel, please, can I talk to you?" My heart tightened, but I nodded. We stepped outside to the small porch. He inhaled shakily. "I ruined everything. I blamed you for what I never tested in myself. I insulted you. I pushed you out. I let pride destroy the only good thing I ever had. I stayed silent." He wiped his eyes. "I don't deserve forgiveness, but I needed to say it. I'm sorry, Mabel. From my soul, I'm sorry." The boys peeked from the doorway. He looked at them with tears streaming down his cheeks. "You deserved love. You deserved peace. I gave you pain." I took a deep breath. "Darlington, I forgave you long before today. Not for your sake, but for mine." He nodded slowly, broken but relieved. And then he walked away. A man finally facing his truth. After Darlington left my doorstep, a strange quiet settled over me. Not sadness. Not anger. Just a deep, peaceful stillness, like a door that had stayed open for too long had finally been closed. I walked back inside, and my boys ran into my arms, their tiny fingers wrapping around my neck. Their warmth reminded me why forgiveness mattered, not to free him, but to free myself. Kene came behind me and placed his hands on my shoulders. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. "Yes," I whispered. "For the first time in a long time. I truly am." Life returned to its gentle rhythm. My restaurant grew busier every week, customers filling every table, children laughing in the corner. The boys loved helping me stir tiny pots or hand napkins to guests. Their joy filled every corner of the room. One evening, as the sun dipped low and cast a golden glow across our small home, the boys climbed into my lap. "Mummy," one of them asked, "were people talking about you yesterday?" I smiled softly. "Yes, they were." "Why?" the smallest one asked, poking my cheek. "Because," I said, brushing their curls, "sometimes people don't understand God's plan. But when the truth comes, it shines bright." Kene sat beside me, his hand resting on my knee. "You stood in your truth with dignity, Mabel. You didn't need revenge. Your life became the testimony." I leaned into him, grateful. I thought my story ended the night I left Darlington's house. I thought I was broken forever. "And look at you now," he said. "A mother of 3. A business owner. A woman filled with grace." I looked at my sons, the biggest blessings of my life, and whispered, "Never let anyone define your worth. God writes the final chapter." As laughter filled the room and evening settled gently around us, I realized something. I had not just survived. I had risen. My ashes had become beauty. My tears had become strength. My ending had become a beginning.